Well, hello. This is Tom and Heather from Shadowfields, and this is Monday in the Studio.
Please, please, please send out to your fans, friends, family our link and like, share, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to always stay with us whenever we go live.
How exciting.
How exciting.
All right, what's everybody drinking tonight?
I have a Arnold Palmer, as always. How about you?
I think I have bourbon, I believe.
Bourbon? That's so you. How about Shirley, Dave, Tony, Becky, Steve, Pat?
Hi, Pat.
Thanks for joining us. This is fun. Way down in, where does he live now? Where do you live, Pat? I always forget. I know it's way south. But great to have you with us today. So why bourbon?
Why not?
Somebody brought it though, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
We actually have a guest tonight.
We do have a guest.
Oh, Dr. Pepper. Diet Dr. Pepper. No
beverage. Tony, what's going on there?
Chardonnay. Oh, Pat. You got some chips and dip with that, I'm sure.
Chips and dip with Chardonnay?
Well, it's what he has when he's here.
Yeah,
so.
well, I don't have Chardonnay, but...
Oh, a Chanahan. Chanahan? What's that? Is that a mix? Is that some kind of mix with a Chardonnay and
I have no
honey?
Idea. I have no idea.
Oh, look we have a little guest.
Yeah, there's a guest. There's a guest back there with
Shirley wine. Okay, Shirley wine.
Okay,
that's awesome.
So,
well, today, we have a topic, and it's going to be called poetry.
Yes,
but before we do that, we just want to get at what we got going on in the studio.
It's been a really, really, really busy week.
Has it been a really big week?
It has been a very big week.
Mm-hmm.
Many of you might know that our friend Dave had come out a couple months ago and recorded 5 songs in the studio, and it was left to me to finish them up, to get them finished recording and mixed, and just make something out of this and get it back to him. And I don't know how many hours would that have been. Probably, I don't know, 40 hours this weekend. I worked on it, and they are basically done. We're going to listen to the last of it tonight and make some final tweaks, and then we are done with that.
That's 5 songs. So that's
5 lots of fun songs.
Yeah,
so
yeah. And what I heard from Tom is that he really enjoyed being a guitarist.
I don't usually get to do that. With Shadowfields, I don't play guitar hardly ever, especially electric
guitar. Yeah.
And so the entire weekend I was pulling out all my electric guitars and trying out different ones and different amp settings, went through my pedal board, and, just had a great time being a guitar player again. And it turned out great. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I was telling Tom that I was a little envious because he was doing all this melody work on the guitar. It's Dave and Shirley, you're going to love the melodies that are on there. So it's been great seeing them come alive.
Oh yeah.
And
it went from being ideas to, all right, these are done. These are like, you could listen to these and you could hear it on the radio kind of thing. So
yeah. And what else? Anything else happened in the studio? Any new gear? Anything that you learned while you were doing these?
I bought more plugins, but
no.
I'm always buying plugins. But
no, nothing else, right?
Well, I've been binging when I'm not working. I've been binging on mastering, because I'd like to get better at mastering. I do some mastering, but there's certain techniques in metering that I don't have the greatest grasp of. And understanding of it. So normalization of audio and in the mastering, and what the loudness unit should be for different genres, and what do the different streaming services what do they stream at, and how to get it best for them. So that's what I've been doing.
Yeah. And I went to Myrtle Beach. Maybe some of you saw that. Needed to get away for a little bit and walk the beach, wrote a couple of songs, or at least some lyrics to songs, which we'll talk a little bit tonight about poetry versus lyric writing. But I sent those, a couple to you. And so those can potentially be brought into a song, because I know that we want to get back to more of our songwriting too, and collaborating on those. But that's kind of what happened in the studio this past week.
It's been busy. Yeah.
Enjoyment, though, clearly, learning new things, and in this community studio that we have here, we have other things coming up, some work for Dan Asio, as well as Avel.
Yeah. We did nearly finish up a song for Larry Etchins.
For Larry Etchins, yeah.
And
it's a beautiful song. Just beautiful. He's going to come in and
do final
vocals.
And that'll be in a week.
Yeah.
And so
we keep on moving it, and keep on, having these folks that are really creative coming in and getting their music made and put out there. I
just have to drop the day job thing.
I'm thinking so.
Because we're just getting so busy that it's hard to squeeze everything in, you know. But I'm working at it.
All right. So should we go to poetry?
We should go. Well, before we go to poetry, we need more bourbon.
Okay.
Do we need more cubes? Okay. Introduce our guest while I go get some.
So before we do that, when you think about poetry, like, what is it? Well, first of all, do you know where the word poetry comes from, where it's derived? Just write down where you think it's derived from. Valerie, get behind me. Get behind me. Get behind me. People are asking me, is this turning into a horror movie? But, poetry, as it's called, it equals something called verse. So it's basically a form of literature that uses this aesthetic or rhythmic qualities of the language for emotional or conveying some kind of experience that elicits some kind of emotional response. So when you think about that, and again, what's that word poetry come from? So Becky, Steve, Pat, Tony, anybody else that's online, let us know what language poetry is from. If Jimmy Levis was here, he would know. So we want to talk tonight about how is poetry kind of similar or different from lyrics. And with that, I'm going to introduce to you my cousin Valerie. She's coming from New Jersey, and she was the very first person that I remember in my life that actually was going to poetry readings and writing poems and learning about more how to actually investigate doing poetry well. And I remember being with my cousin Marty and her, and she brought her poems and she read these to us, and what a great experience that was. So without further ado, ta-da!
You gotta bring your chair up.
My cousin Valerie. And what are you drinking tonight?
Oh, I'm drinking, is it honey bourbon or honey whiskey?
Oh, it's whiskey. Kentucky whiskey.
Is there any honey in it at all?
I don't see any honey.
Oh, geez, I don't know where that came from.
See, we actually do look a little alike, don't we?
We do.
We do.
Yes.
Kind of look a little alike. So Becky says hi.
Hi, Becky.
So we were talking a little bit earlier about poetry and your influences. So who are your favorite poets? You said you had a couple?
I do have a couple. I'm not going to put them in any order of who I like the best or whatever, but I will tell you that Billy Collins,
okay,
who was the poet laureate, I don't remember what years, but I remember reading his poetry and thinking, this is not like anything else I've ever read. And the reason why was because it was so accessible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just always thought
it wasn't overly flowery. Is that what you're saying? Because sometimes
you understood it.
That's all I can say is I understood it.
Yeah.
No ambiguity.
Yeah.
No, I wonder what they're trying to say here.
Yeah.
There's got to be a deeper meaning.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
So Billy Collins laid it right out. And I think he gave everybody a lot of permission to just love words and poetry.
That's great.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
there another one? You said you had another one, maybe?
So some of my favorites are Ted Kuzer,
Mm-hmm.
who his day job was in insurance, and he just wrote some.
Was it all about policies and plans?
Yes, yeah, it was
Thou
just
policy.
so exciting. His metaphors will knock you over, though. His really and truly one of the best metaphoric poets.
Mm-hmm.
Marie Howe, beautiful poet. She studied with Stanley Kunitz. Sharon Olds,
Okay.
who won the Nobel
Why do I?
Prize for poetry a couple years ago with a book called Stag's Leap, which
Okay.
a lot of people might know is a very delicious wine.
Hmm.
So her poetry has always been extremely sensual.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no veil, no hiding
Mm-hmm.
how her and her husband felt about each other.
Mm.
And it was really some really beautiful, and her kids, like she just wrote so earthy.
Mm-hmm.
And then her husband up and left her.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Up and left her after many, 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 many years.
Mm-hmm.
And she wrote Stag's Leap,
Oh.
all about the pain
Mm-hmm.
of that abandonment. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just right out there.
Yeah.
And she's very popular in the
Okay.
poetry circle. So
Do you feel like the raw emotion from what she's saying?
mhm.
It wasn't super
Oh,
flowery.
yeah, that's great. No, it wasn't. And it wasn't maudlin. It was powerful. And
Was there a bit of anger in there?
oh, there was anger. There was remorse. Yeah.
Because when you're talking about that, it reminds me of pulling into lyrics. Alanis Morissette,
Yes.
Jagged Little Pill. That album blew up because hers was all about breakup stuff,
Mhm.
things that happened to her
Mhm. Mhm.
that she was devastated by
Mhm.
and angry.
Mhm.
And first time I heard You Ought to Know, it was like, oh my gosh.
Mhm.
I remember the first time I heard it, I
Mhm.
was like, I can't believe
That she's saying
that
this.
she's saying this.
This.
This is the things that I imagine many women are thinking at the
Mhm.
time of a breakup,
Right.
but nobody would say that.
Right.
And because she put everybody's thoughts to words,
Mhm.
it became so powerful that
Absolutely.
she's built a career
Yeah.
on a handful of songs that she wrote
Mhm.
back in
Mhm.
1980 something
Yeah.
or early 90s.
Yeah, 90s. And I had the privilege of being able to see her play Jagged Little Pill in New York. One of the very best plays. I don't know. There's a play, Mamma Mia, which is all of
ABBA
stuff.
Mhm.
Nothing like that at all. This is all Jagged Little Pill songs, but so emotive, so amazing.
They
And-
made it into a Broadway kind of musical.
I mean,
Wow.
I
it
had no
was
idea.
That's
it
incredible.
was just absolutely amazing. So if anybody ever has a chance to see it in this part of the world, where are we?
Mhm.
Chicago?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So you were talking
But
about
I also
Billy.
want to say that just in case anybody wants to look up any of these poets, Ocean Vuong is a wonderful Vietnamese poet who was a student of Sharon Olds.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to see them a couple years ago share the stage. And I had seen Sharon Olds many times
Mm-hmm.
and thought, oh my gosh, she's just so amazing. And then I saw Ocean Vuong with her.
Mm.
And she just was a shadow compared to his light and
Oh, wow.
powerfulness. And
How do you spell Vaughn?
Vaughan.
G-H-N?
I
And the first
think.
name is Ocean.
Ocean.
Like an ocean.
Like an ocean.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. His first book is called Exit Wounds in the Sky or something.
Mhm.
Like, so it's the
Okay.
stars, Exit
Yep.
Wounds. Anyway, beautiful, beautiful poet. And so many beautiful poets. Of course, the old and cherished and dear Mary Oliver.
Mhm.
And we were just talking about Keats and Shelley.
Yeah.
And I think Mary Oliver and her wife named their dogs Percy and Shelley.
Oh wow,
Mhm.
that's funny.
Yeah, yeah,
So you write poetry.
I do.
So, tell us about your process. Do you have a process, or is it just like things that come to you,
You
or
know, Heather, I think that I was really relating to what you were saying today
Yeah.
about just a thought comes to you, write it down.
yeah,
An image comes to you, write it down.
yeah,
Two words come together that you never saw together, but they came together in a sentence that you saw somewhere or you heard somewhere.
Mhm.
Write them down
yeah,
because they spark something in you that
Yes.
made you think, this is more than just these words.
Yeah.
There's something going on here.
absolutely.
So that sometimes happens. And I just
Mhm.
think that everything is useful.
Yeah.
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 Nothing is ever wasted.
And I'd asked her this question in my living room just a
Yeah.
little bit ago, which was, do you ever have rhyming in your poetry?
Mm-mm.
So talk a little bit about rhyming.
So it's hard for me to talk about rhyming poetry.
Roses are red. Violets aren't my favorite.
Right. Exactly. So, rhyming poetry has been going through, I would say probably for at least the last 20 years.
Mhm.
Like the little redheaded stepchild.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not
So
like
people
it's not
go out of their way not to
write
rhyme.
it. Yeah, and they go out of
Are-
their way to really criticize people who do, which is unfortunate.
Are they trying to keep a similar meter between
Yeah,
lines?
they're trying to keep a meter, and they're definitely trying to keep the rhyme. And because most of what I've heard is not very good, it just doesn't work. But read some good poetry that rhymes. You got your Shakespeare, like you
Yeah.
were just saying.
Yeah.
Emily Dickinson, who talks about the slanted rhyme.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a little visitor back there?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she's
She's just
so
making her way to
cute. Oh, we should probably introduce
Harper Lee.
This is Harper Lee. And what is the background of the name of Harper Lee?
One of my favorite authors
Mm-hmm.
who wrote To Kill a Mockingbird. I'm sure
What
everybody
a
knows
phenomenal.
that. I know.
That's
One of the
You
best.
read it. You and your husband read that once a year, right, or something
Well,
like that?
every couple years we
Yeah.
pick it up and read it again. Of course, we
Mhm.
saw the Broadway play with Jeff Daniels, which was unbelievable,
Mhm.
fabulous. Yeah. So if any of these things come to Chicago, which they probably already have, they've come and gone. Did you miss them? Because they're so good.
Yeah.
Anyway, so poetry. So rhyming, if it's done right and it's
Mhm.
done well, is just amazing.
Yeah.
But it's so seldom done right and done well. And I do it terrible. I do like we talked about.
Yeah.
The bed and the head and the set.
We
I
talked
mean-
about lazy rhyming, which we hear a
So-
lot in
Yeah.
singers
so-
lyrics.
Write something about oranges.
Yeah, right. That's never going
I
to
know.
happen, Tom.
There's nothing rhyming with orange.
Forlorn.
For oranges.
Forlorn.
Well, oranges.
I mean, you could just
forlorn,
make that the forlorn, drag it
so-
out.
But you can add
So it could
something.
almost be like a slant.
forlorn. So you could
Yeah.
something.
I don't know.
Yeah. So
So mostly my poetry is very narrative.
Mhm.
Some of the different forms, there's many different forms, and some of them are just so creative. A villanelle, a Harper Lee, no crying, a
Is she crying?
sestina.
Mhm.
These are
Keep
things that
talking.
you might want to just look up and see, well, what the heck are those? They're the repeat of a line that will be used in the first line of a poem, and then the second stanza will be used as the last line in the second stanza, or vice versa. You could see the form as it goes along. Very creative
Mhm.
and very difficult to write those. One Art by Elizabeth Bishop
Okay.
is one of the most beautiful that's similar to that. So if you want to get an idea of what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
And also Delight and Shadows, I think, is Ted Kuzer's book, just for some really beautiful metaphor. So yeah, a lot of my work is very narrative. I do a lot of readings, and I'm part of a poetry workshop.
Okay.
I bring in a poem every week, and I think it's good. Ish. Of course, I always say, I just wrote this and it's horrible. But actually, I bring it in because I think it's sort of goodish.
Yeah.
And then
You shouldn't set things up saying, "Oh, this is no good."
no, we're not allowed to even do that.
No, you have to just go in and
And
just
just-
be bold and
That's
just
right.
and let the chips fall where they
That
may.
is absolutely right. But I will say this, that every time I thought it was good, I have to say that my poetry workshop group
Mm-hmm.
makes it so much better. Why is it better when I leave there?
Do they actually change things with you?
They don't change
They-
concepts, but they might change break lines for something more powerful than I wrote. Like if I change the word from sundown to sun over here and then down over here. Like I'm just giving you that as an example. There's just more powerful ways to write a poem than sometimes I do. And so they'll do that. They'll do that. One of the most important things about poetry is to be short and concise.
Mm-hmm.
If you want anything other than that, read a novel.
I-
Although Homer is how many pages? So as a rule, though, poetry, we think of it as being rather concise. You could write a poem that's 2 or 3 pages, and that's still concise. Like when you take, what was her name? Gorman, who read, I think it might have been at Joe Biden's inaugural.
Sarah Gorman? Is it Sarah?
The Hill We Climb.
Yeah.
It was probably 2 or 3 pages. But it was so much in those 2 or 3 pages. So it still ended up being concise, but told a really powerful and good story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But Allen Ginsberg, who's, a great beat poet, said, sometimes we have to kill our darlings.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say, but I really love that line. And they'll say, it's just not working.
Well,
We have to kill.
As songwriters, we have that same kind of thing.
Yeah.
We have an entire computer filled with songs that no one will ever hear.
Uh-huh.
Because you get so far into it and you go, well, that's either trite or
Right.
there's something about it that we're
Right.
unhappy about. And it's like, all right, well, but I feel like you need to go through those phases
Mhm.
to get on to the next thing.
Mhm.
You need to write the things that aren't so great so you can get
That's
on to the other
right.
ones. As long as you sit there and keep whittling away,
Mm.
trying to rework this one idea,
Mm-mm, mhm.
you're never going to grow.
No.
Uh,
No.
I-
I mean, basically. But sometimes that one idea, that one germ,
Mhm.
put it in your back pocket and pull it out at another time, and it might be just the right fit.
We did that with Too Blue. We
Mhm.
really really liked the bridge of that song,
Mhm.
so we brought it. In another song, it was called "Friends of." I don't
It
know,
was
friends around the something. It was about
Circle of
a
Friends.
circle of friends, about these circle of friends that were doing music in London, in this Camden town, and I loved how it felt like, a whole bunch of like bohemians are all around in a circle.
Mhm.
And so we wrote this really cool middle part of this with flute and, is it mandolin?
Yeah.
It's so gorgeous. I mean, that was writing. There were no lyrics, but
Just
it was
Instrumentally, it was gorgeous.
instrumentally. There was emotion. There was feeling
I
in
love
there.
that.
And so we pulled it out of one song, put in another.
Yes.
Yeah.
It
was
Because
very
we,
cool.
we just could not make it the whole thing.
Right.
We could never make it where we thought, oh,
This
that's
is going to
it.
be a song.
But we
Mhm.
could take a piece of that and we
Mhm.
pulled it into something else.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, because you mentioned kind of that verse that you're like, oh, I really want to keep.
Mm-hmm.
So in lyric writing, and we're collaborating, Tom actually does really great on these clincher lines. Like,
Ah.
you get to a point and you're trying to make something connect meaningfully.
Mhm.
You know what I'm talking about?
I
in
do.
that poem.
I'd like you,
You
to,
know?
I'd like you all to know right now. I wrote, "You're not thinking at all."
He did.
This is what I think.
He
You're not
did.
thinking at all.
You know,
I
you
wrote
guys
that
know
line.
one. Yeah.
Okay.
I remember him going, I know. You're not thinking at all. And I'm like, oh, it's perfect. Yeah. So
Yeah.
he doesn't always get the clincher line, but
But
right.
often, huh?
Often enough. But those are the ones that I kind of, I think over time have been scared of, because it's almost like it's been so easy up to this point.
Mm,
Things are really, really good and they're connecting,
mhm,
but I can't get this thought and that thought
mm.
and this other thought like connected together emotionally, because it's at that moment you've already done the first line, second line, third line, maybe a little fourth little taggy thing, and now the last piece has to bring it all together emotionally.
Mm.
And there's such weight on that one line,
Mhm,
and to
mhm,
come up with the rhyme,
mhm.
because it
How do you-
has to
how
have
do-
a rhyme.
How do you say something profound or deep and make it rhyme?
Right,
It's
right.
almost, sacrilege to have to make something rhyme
I
when you're
know.
trying to portray an emotion.
Right.
But that's the challenge of
Challenge
what
of
it is.
lyrics.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You didn't know this. I'm telling you right now.
Mhm.
When I went to college for the 1 year and I learned everything about everything, one of my classes was poetry.
Poetry.
So who's your favorite poet?
I can't
You had
remember.
one. Not everybody has one,
No,
right?
no, I have a whole book of poetry that it's probably up in the attic above the
Mhm.
studio. A lot of my books, I don't have enough room for all my stuff.
Right.
So, but I did have favorite poets at that point
Mhm.
in time.
Mm-hmm.
Let us know, for those of you on the line, if you have a favorite poet. The one
was
that-
it Robert Frost who wrote the thing
The
about
two
The
roads
two roads
diverge.
the
Mm,
convergence of wood.
wood.
it could be that, or somebody wrote something about a winter thing.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, that's
all
Robert
right,
Frost.
that could be it.
It's really beautiful imagery that has stuck well over all these years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is Paradise Lost? Is that
That's a book.
poetry?
It is.
Isn't
I
it?
heard- I
It's
think
ju-
it's
is
like-
that
I've heard it's like-
Milton?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, nothing that I ever read.
No.
No.
So
Mm-mm.
Maya Angelou, the very 1st
Mhm.
poem I ever read of hers, I needed. It was oral interpretation course in college,
Mhm.
and you had to get up in front of everybody
Mm.
and
Mm.
do act out a poem.
Oh,
And I chose "Phenomenal Woman"
what a great poem.
by Maya Angelou. It was, that kind of proclaiming
Yeah.
that women can.
I remember it. I am woman. Hear me roar.
No, that's
And
Oh,
not
numbers
that's
two.
Helen
it.
Reddy.
That's Helen
I'm
Reddy.
teasing.
Although good lyrics.
I'm teasing.
Laura, hi Laura. Yep, Maya Angelou. Yep.
Yeah. I got to see
So-
Maya
We are almost
Angelou.
out of time.
Oh,
I know
No,
we
I
could go
told you it
on
would go by
forever. You see, it
fast.
goes really
Yes, I
quick.
certainly
And
did
we-
not want to do this.
We have only touched on the surface of
Yeah.
this.
Maybe we
The
should keep
the
going.
cross between poetry and lyrics,
Yeah.
because they're both going to portray an emotion.
Or an
Mhm.
experience.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I say to people is read a lot of poetry. Ugh, if you don't like poetry, that's really hard to do.
Mhm.
But if you're interested in poetry, or you think you might be interested in poetry, I would say read a lot of poetry and look up some of the people that I just mentioned. Sharon Olds, Ocean Vuong, Mary Oliver is a favorite. Wild Geese. Everybody
Mhm.
should read Wild Geese. It
That's
changed my
awesome.
life. Like if you have a poem that changed your life,
Wild Geese is it?
is it? And I saw Mary Oliver
Mm-hmm.
read her poetry at the 92nd Street Y in the city. And when she read Wild Geese, the whole audience just went, oh. And
Did you
she's,
weep? Did you cry?
oh, yeah, along with
Everybody
500
else.
other people there. But she said it's always funny to her to hear that, because to her, it's such an old poem,
Hmm.
but it's so, is it universal? Is that the
Mhm,
word I might be
sure.
looking
Yeah.
for?
Mhm.
It just, the first line is, you do not have to be good.
Hmm.
Who doesn't need to hear that every once in a while?
Right. Right.
You know, we think
That
we have
never
to
in
be.
rehearsals, though.
Oh,
I've
no.
never said that in a rehearsal.
No, right.
I never said,
of course, you don't
you
have
don't have to be good.
to.
You have to be perfect.
You do. I do. Well, it's been a joy having you on our little show
I
here.
wish I had
and-
brought some poetry to read, because
I
that's
know.
my favorite thing.
Well,
to
next
do.
time you're here, we'll
we'll do it again.
We'll get you to read some of your poetry.
Mhm.
How's that?
Yes. We do have a show this weekend.
Yes,
It-
we
it
do.
is open to the public.
Yes.
If, It's the Hinsdale Unitarian Church.
Yep. Yep.
It's a fundraiser for them.
So come on out if
We'll
you're
be
around.
playing-
It's on the 11th, and it's at 7 p.m. at Hinsdale Unitarian Church.
And
11th. That's Veterans Day.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Let's have some good songs for our
we'll
vets.
be
Yes.
playing, and we'll be playing for an hour.
Yep.
It'll be lots of fun. And we had a lot of fun tonight. This could have gone on. We'll
Mhm.
continue this,
Mhm.
with
I think we're
With
going to
more,
continue.
we'll continue the story and
Mhm.
poetry. But this again has been Tom and Heather, and this has been
Monday in the
studio.
And great to be with you all. Please do subscribe, like our channel, share it, and please click on that notification bell, my friends, and stay with us whenever we go live.
Yes, thanks for being with us tonight. And who knows what special guests we're going to have next week?
I know. Who knows?
Who knows?
All right. We'll talk to y'all later. Thank you so much.
Good night.
Bye,
Good night.
everybody.
Bye.